afternoon, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talk's MLB update. We welcome everybody on TGI Sports Talk today. Everybody will see us on Let's Talk Sports as well, and any other places you see us later. We always want to thank the groups that allow us to share this information with them. Welcome, everybody. I got a couple of StreamYards open here. Bear with me 1 second because I think it's going to cause some issues. Get rid of this. Am I still here? I am. Look at that. Wow. All right. Hopefully that helps our feed a little bit. Guys, again, welcome. Great to have you with us here today. We'll talk again. I do want to welcome everybody on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, X. Sorry, not Twitter, X. We're going to talk baseball today. Everything we talk will be Major League Baseball. We'll wait for Dave Guyette to get in and say, fire Boone and Cashman, which I would do because the Yankees got to be the coldest team in baseball right now. Or one of them. Let's get rid of this music. Listen, I'm not sure what to say. Yankees right now have a 2.5% chance of making the playoffs. They're in danger of ending a remarkable 30-year streak of finishing 500 or above 500. Not easy to do, but man, they're bad. Hopefully the night off last night helped them. We'll get more into that as we go forward here. Let's look at last night's scores a little bit real quick, and then we'll get to some other news. Mariners beat the Royals, and the Mariners stay red hot, by the way. 7-3 in their last 10, within 6 of the Rangers. In the wild card race, I think they are now. Good question. I lost my wild card race. They are now within. Help me out. I think they're a half game out of the playoff. Yeah, half game out of the playoff behind the Blue Jays. So nice win for them last night, and they continue to be hot. And J-Rod, red hot. 5 hits, 5 RBIs last night. He's been hot. Pretty pedestrian first half for him. Good job in the second half. The Red Sox lose to the Nationals, and the Nationals, listen, this will be a moral victory for them. They can keep the Mets at bay and stay out of last place, if you will, in the National League East. Maybe the Mets would have the moral victory here by finishing out of last place. Pretty bad when that's what we're talking about, right? Mets did win last night over the Cardinals. Alonso and Quintana sparked this victory. Alonso with a 2-run homer. Quintana wins for the first time this season. Missed a lot of the first half, or the entire first half, with injuries. The Diamondbacks trying to right the ship a little bit. Get a 3-1 win over the Padres, who, for a change, are not 4 games under 500. They're 6 games under 500, and the season is about gone for them. We'll look at everybody's playoff chances here in just a little bit. The Brewers lose a tough one to the Dodgers. The Dodgers are on fire. The pitchers are just pitching out of their you-know-what. And Austin Barnes homers for the only run of this game. The Dodgers won 11 straight. I've said it here a few weeks in a row now. Dave Roberts is the best manager in baseball at the moment. He's got to be the manager of the year with what the Dodgers are doing and the injuries they've had. We talk about injuries all the time, but some teams get injuries and figure it out. Dodgers have done just that. And the Tigers and the Guardians were postponed, and probably just something that was best for everybody. Oh, my gosh. There's some bad stories around baseball right now, too, by the way. This Wander Franco story, we're going to go around the divisions, and we'll look at the playoff chances. We'll look at the wild card contenders and pretenders a little bit. But this Wander Franco deal, where he's being investigated, their special investigative squad has been put together to investigate the allegations into his involvement with 2 underage girls. I believe these both took place in the Dominican. But there are many people close to the situation, close to the Rays, who say Wander Franco will never play in the major leagues again. if these allegations are true and that comes to pass, then it's sad because he's one of the great young talents in this game. But I don't understand how these guys can think that type of behavior, again, if it's true, is okay. Very, very sad story. And I hope it's not true, quite frankly. In a better story, the Angels, who are quickly falling out of the race, which we'll talk about in a second, they promoted one of their picks this year, one of the fastest big league promotions in decades. They're calling up first baseman Nolan Chanel, less than 6 weeks after taking him with the 11th pick in the draft. He's logged fewer than 100 plate appearances. He's played 21 games in Double-A, never played a day in Triple-A. And he's the latest player summoned by the Angels to try to salvage the season with very diminishing playoff hopes on the verge of losing Shohei Ohtani to free agency. They went all in here trying to show him they'd try to win, and they've gone in the toilet since they picked him up. Or I'm sorry, since they decided to go all in and not trade Ohtani, they've just gone in the toilet. I don't know any other way to phrase it. Now, we'll see what happens here. They're 60 and 62. They're 7 games behind the Blue Jays for that final spot. Very unlikely to make it. The Yankees have a better shot right now than the Angels. And Chanel, if that's how you say his name, was considered perhaps the most advanced bat in a very renowned 2023 draft. Had a great season at Florida last year, Florida Atlantic, excuse me. And we'll see if that will transfer to too early success here in the major leagues. Good luck to him. We hope he does well. The last player to debut this early, by the way, in his drafted season with Chris Sale from when he was with the White Sox. That was in 2010. That was about 2 months after the draft. So we'll see. The Angels have been calling up lots of their recent draft picks, because we know they brought up their shortstop Zach Neto in mid-April after just 201 minor league at-bats. He was their first-round pick last year. And they also had brought up Chase Silseth, who went from the 11th round pick in 2021 to a big leaguer in May 2022. So they've had a history of doing this, and it has not worked out so well just yet. We'll see how that works. Right now, Neto's out with a back injury, and all their trade deadline guys, Randall Grichuk, C.J. Cron, they've got sub 600 OPSs, so since joining the team, not good. In good news for the Blue Jays in their playoff push, Bo Bichette says he'll return for the DL. We don't say IL on this show. He'll return from the DL on Saturday. He's been out for a bit with an injury. August 2nd is when he went on with patellar tendonitis. He'd gotten hurt, and they went out and traded for Paul DeJong just to be safe. But he's been having a really, really good season. In fact, he's still leading the American League even after missing almost 3 weeks here, probably more than 3 weeks before he went on the DL. 144 hits he still has to lead the AL, and he has 17 homers and 59 RBIs in 106 games. He is a very, very fine player. The Dodgers, as I said, sweep the Brewers last night, playing tremendous baseball. Lance Lynn, again, the Dodgers were derided for what they did or did not do. Unable to get Justin Verlander. Lance Lynn was probably their marquee pickup at the deadline. Well, he outdueled Corbin Burns last night, retired 10 in a row, including 6 on strikeouts at one point. And he did not figure in the decision, but he pitched very well. 4 hits over 6 innings, walking 1 and striking out 3. So Lance Lynn, maybe if he finds a fountain of youth here with the Dodgers are dangerous anyway. Everybody talks about injuries with the Yankees, the Mets, whatever team you want to pick. I can't think of the Astros. I can't think of a team that's been hit harder than the Dodgers. They're running away with the West now. They've got a 99.9% chance of making the playoffs. 15-1 now they are in August. 11 straight wins. Great job. The Cardinals will call up their top prospect, Mazin Wynn from AAA. He's a shortstop, and they're going to be placing Lars Nootbaar on the DL outfielder who's been injured a bit. Had an up and down season for he's an interesting prospect, Nootbaar, but he's had a lot of injuries, and I'm not sure whether I like him or not. White Sox, Tim Anderson, if you remember I wish I could find this meme. I got to find this meme to show you guys in a little while. White Sox, Tim Anderson had his suspension reduced to 5 games. If you remember, he and Jose Ramirez got into a little scuffle, and Anderson went down pretty hard. Pretty good punch as far as baseball fights go. I told you Nolan Gorman was going on the DL. I don't know. That's probably about it for the news. Anyway, let me check the athletic here. Anything else come up? We talked about Wander Franco. He is on the restricted list. Marcus Stroman is out with a rib cartilage fracture. That'll hurt the Cubs' chances here. How long is he going to be out for? He was placed on a 15-day DL with a right hip inflammation on August 2nd. He and the team stressed at the time that he would only miss one start. Then he was feeling rib discomfort after Sunday's bullpen session. Stroman has had an up and down season and can opt out of his contract. A little surprising they did not trade him, along with some others at the trade deadline. But the Cubs feel they're in it to win it, but they're in a wild card race. What else they're in for, we'll talk about some more as we go forward. They cannot afford to be without Marcus Stroman for a significant period of time, though, I would not think. Talked about all of that. A Babe Ruth bat matched to a 1923 game. So an actual game-used bat by Babe Ruth sells for $1.3 million at an auction. I don't know how they figure this out. I'm not even sure, who needs a $1.3 million Babe Ruth bat? I mean, I'd love to have a Babe Ruth bat, but, what's it worth? I can't buy anything with it. So anyway, the memorabilia industry is just really, really out of whack, isn't it? Let's go around the league, shall we? First of all, let's go around the divisions. And I guess we'll talk about maybe some of the big storylines left here as we look to finish out the Major League Baseball season. Let's start around the league. In the American League East, the Orioles, listen, great story. Despite me ripping them down last week for the treatment of Kevin Brown and that whole fiasco with the on-air, what the Orioles considered bashing the team, if you will, calling them cheap, when he was really giving them a compliment for improving. Thin-skinned. Anyway, they continue to lead the East by 2 games. They've got a 98.2 chance of making the playoffs right now. The Rays trying to fight through the distractions of injury after injury. Shane McClanahan, the latest to go on the injured list with, I want to say he's having Tommy John surgery. Gone for a year at least. One of the great pitchers in the American League. Fighting through the distractions of the Wander Franco fiasco. Hope for his sake these charges are not true, but they're playing well. 6-4 in their last 10, 96.8% chance to make the playoffs. The Blue Jays holding on to the last wild card spot in the American League. are 7.5 behind the Orioles. Right now, they have a 65% chance of making the playoffs. They are definitely a contender, not a pretender in this wild card race. I would say the Red Sox and the Yankees both are. They pull up the rear. The Red Sox still 5 games over 500, but only a 10% chance to make the playoffs at this point. And the Yankees, under 500 this late in the season for the first time since 1995, with a very real possibility of finishing under 500 for the first time in 30 years. Guys, that is an amazing, amazing stat. First of all, to have gone this long and stayed over 500, excellent. Can't be done. I mean, it rivals, in a way, it rivals the Patriots, a run in football, I would say, what they have done over that 30-year span. It's an ultra-competitive business, sports today. Parity is something all these leagues seem to strive for. And when the Yankees or the Patriots can have these types of runs, where the Patriots had 19 consecutive winning seasons, in the NFL, where it's very hard to win year after year, the Yankees' 30-year streak in baseball is just amazing. Who's second? I don't even know who's second, but I got to tell you something. It's a wonderful stretch, but my God, this team is so poorly put together. This is like the second time in 3 years the offense has been putrid, if you will, for the most part. .5% chance of making the playoffs. Davey guy that's not with us yet today, but when he does pop in, I'm sure he'll say fire Cashman and Boone. I've seen enough. I read articles that Cashman's 25-year track record shouldn't, just one blip shouldn't affect whether he'll be back or not. Am I the only guy paying attention that he keeps making the same mistakes over and over again? Signing pitchers or trading for pitchers without understanding their injury history or ability to pitch in New York. Stacking a lineup full of right-handed bats, especially those with power, in a left-handed hitter's park. Putting together flawed teams that cannot score unless they hit home runs. There was an article in the Post this week by an ex-prospect named Ben Ruda, who says the Yankees are interested in the minor leagues of making everybody the same type of player. Analytics is all they care about. They don't teach baseball. And when they get to the majors, you can see it. Watch this team run the bases. It's like they're the scarecrow without a brain. Gleyber Torres' whole strategy on the bases is to run until he gets tagged. Constantly, this team's running themselves out of innings. The baseball IQ of this team is horrible. And now you see these articles by guys like Ben Ruda, who spend a considerable amount of time playing in the Yankee minor league organization, and all they preach is analytics. Let's see if I can read one of his quotes here. The stat focuses, so here's the deal. Mentioned one specific analytic that the Yankees, he said, rely heavily on, which is hit affects OPS. Now, OPS in itself, I like. I think it's a good stat. But this stat focuses on exit velocity and launch angle to come up with a projected OPS while eliminating luck as a factor. Are you kidding me? So instead of teaching kids how to run the bases, how to take a lead, how to block balls at the plate, how to hit the cutoff man, how to make contact with runners in scoring position. We're focusing on exit velocity and launch angle to come up with a projected OPS while eliminating luck as a factor. The problem with this metric is strikeouts is not a demerit, let's say. Because they use, I mean, guys, oh my God. Don't teach baseball. Let's teach analytics. This is exactly what I'm saying is wrong with Major League Baseball as a whole, the Yankees specifically. Fire Brian Cashman. Get somebody in here who's not so analytically focused. I know analytics are part of the game, and I've got to accept that. But I don't have to accept this exit velocity and launch angle come up with projected OPS by eliminating luck. Stop it. Teach guys how to run the bases. Are you kidding me? And Aaron Boone, got to go. I want a GM and a manager who, first of all, can think independently of one another. And a manager who's got some feel for the game. Stop looking. I say this every week. Stop looking in your little book at what we should do in a certain situation. God almighty. Central. The Twins, after being 5-5 in their last 10, 4 games over 500, but a 4.5 game lead over the Guardians. That leaves them with a 90% chance of making the playoffs as we speak. The Guardians, 5 games under 500, 8.4% chance. The Cardinals, the only other team with a chance here, at least mathematically, 0.07%. There is no chance. So there's no wild card contender here. The Twins should win this division if they can stay upright, right? The West, Keith continues to be wrong about the Rangers, 7-3 in their last 10, 94% chance to make the playoffs, holding off the Astros, who are 2.5 games behind them, also have a 92% chance of making the playoffs. They're both 7-3 in their last 10, playing really good baseball. I don't have any excuses to make for my low rating of the of this team prior to the season. I was just wrong. So, anyway, hopefully, I still think the Astros will beat them come playoff time. Seattle, by the way, do not discount. I just talked about it when we were running down the scores from last night. J-Rod, 5 for 5 last year, 5 hits, 5 RBIs, playing tremendous baseball since the All-Star game. Had a kind of a pedestrian first half, but he's come on nicely. As has this team. Now 11 games over 500, won 3 in a row, 7-3 in their last 10. Highest playoff percentage, playoff chance percentage they've had probably since April, 39.9%. The Angels, as I said, below the Yankees now at 0.08%. They might as well forget about it. They're bringing up kids, see what they can do in the show. You're not making the playoffs. You're probably losing Ohtani. This was a stupid way to go about it. I said when they made trades for marginal major league starters like Randall Grichuk and CJ Cron, nice players to have on your team. But if you're counting on them to lead you to playoffs, you're in trouble. And the A's trying to avoid 120 losses, probably going to do it. Probably. The National League East, the Braves, 99.9% chance to make it, just like the Dodgers. 12-game lead now over the Phillies. Boredom is their only enemy right now. 8-2 in their last 10. They had a little bump in the road, and they've really straightened it out nicely. The Phillies, they keep, again, very streaky team. 11 games over 500, probably close to their high water mark. They've got an 86% chance to make the playoffs. they could do some damage once they get there. They showed last year. They have what it takes. They got to the World Series when nobody gave them a chance to do so. The Marlins fighting back a little bit. They have lost their last two, but they've got a 42% chance to make the playoffs. They're 4 games over 500. Currently tied for that last wild card spot. The Mets playing out the string. They do have a 1.5% chance of making it. So not that far behind the Yankees and ahead of the Angels. They have a better chance of finishing behind the Nationals, who they only lead by a game. They'd be in last place. In the Central, things have gotten a bit interesting here. Brewers again go on a skid after they get swept now by the Dodgers. Might be giving you an idea of how the Brewers will do come playoff time. They do have a 76% chance of making the playoffs, 8 games over 500. Great pitchers duel last night between Lance Lynn and Corbin Burns. But Brewers come out in the back end, 1-0. The Cubs, 6-4 in their last 10. I keep saying they made a mistake. We'll look at these wild card contenders here and again in just a bit. But right now, the Cubs, the Reds, are fighting for that last spot with the Diamondbacks. Pirates are done. By the way, the Chicago with a 53% chance. The Reds with a 27% chance. You get out west. I talked about the Dodgers. Dodger haters, you can hate all you want, but don't make crap up. Dave Roberts gets ripped. Dave Roberts is a really good major league manager. Dave Roberts is a guy who... Hang on one second, guys. I gotta do something here. Dave Roberts is a guy who's played tremendous. He does not played. He has done tremendously. I can't pick this guy. Am I not on the clock? Oh. Well, apparently I took a guy. Oh, well. Distractions. Anyway, Dave Roberts has done a tremendous job. He's a very good manager. Nobody suffered from injuries more than this team. Take a look at their entire starting rotation has been hurt at one time or another this year. Some for long stretches like Kershaw. The Giants have done a great job of staying in this race. They've fallen off a little bit. 3-7 in their last 10. They do have a 65% chance of making it to the playoffs through that wild card route. The Diamondbacks, 29%. They've fallen off this second half, trying to right the ship. They've won 3 in a row to get back to 2 games over 500. We'll see whether they can get some momentum. It's a young team. I'm not faulting the Reds. I'm not faulting the Diamondbacks for falling back in these races. They didn't go all in because they know they probably need another year to be ready to do that. But to be able to get in the playoffs and make a real run. Padres still have a 19% chance of making the playoffs, even if they're 6 games under 500. Right? I mean, good grief. Where's this article I saw? We wanted to look at who's legit and who's not. The wild card contenders. The top tier. These teams could also end up winning their division. Tampa Bay. They're trying to regain some solid footing, as we talked about. They stumbled. They were only 8-16 in July. They played better in August, but now they got these distractions of the injuries and the Wander Franco horrific story in my mind. You know, I mean, not for him. If these allegations are true, a lot of talk he will never play Major League Baseball again. They've done all this while starters Jeffrey Springs, Drew Rasmussen, Shane Baez, and now their ace, Shane McClanahan, who they've announced is going to be having surgery. And Tyler Glasnow has been hurt since July 31st with some back issues. They'll make the playoffs. Whether they can make a run, it'll be depending on their pitching. They don't have enough pitching, which I don't think they do. And then they're without Franco's bat and glove. I'll see any way he's coming back to this team this year. The Astros, listen, their vibe is getting pretty good. Yordan Alvarez back from injury. Jose Altuve trying to stay healthy. And Justin Verlander adding some depth. I took these notes a few days ago, so hopefully nothing's dated. They've got some depth. They've got Chas McCormick, who's gotten hot. He was a playoff hero last year. But their bullpen has started to fade a little bit. Rafael Montero, who's so good last year, ex-Met prospect who's really rebuilt his career. He's been lacking consistency this year. Ryan Presley, who's the top guy, has been kind of up and down this year as well. Kendall Graveman will probably help this team. I think they got a pretty good chance of catching the Rangers before this is all said and done. Both these teams will make the playoffs. Both these teams could be factors when we get to the playoffs. I do think they're the best two teams in the playoffs. The Cubs could still theoretically win the Central and the NL. Stroman being hurt hurts them a lot, I think. Their only big addition at the All-Star break. They should have been trading in my mind, but they were buying, and they bought Candelario, the third baseman from Washington. We'll see whether that helps them. Again, I thought this was a flawed group when they put it together, but they got guys that are contributing, like Mike Tauchman, who had a great July and stayed fairly hot here into August. Plus, they've got some stars like Dansby Swanson, who you got to root for. But their pitching is really lacking, and Marcus Stroman going down for a period of time, and it looks like he's going to be out for a while. If you get stress fractures in your ribs, I don't think you're going to be pitching anytime soon. I'm going to say the Cubs don't make the playoffs. Phillies are going to make the playoffs. They're for real. Trey Turner's trying to get it going. Has come out of his slump a little bit here through August. The fans have been, kind for Philadelphia fans while Trey struggles here. And this team, again, is loaded with power, but inconsistent performances from Turner, Schwarber, even JT Realmuto, and Bryce Harper, who has not really hit with power since he's come back. But again, they'll make the playoffs, and if they get enough pitching, they'll probably be somebody to at least watch out for come playoff time. The Blue Jays, I'm not so sure because the Mariners are red hot. I like the Mariners to beat them. I can see the Rays. I can see the Astros or Rangers, and I can see the Mariners getting those 3 wild card spots. I think the Blue Jays will be on the inside looking or the outside looking in, and Bruce Schneider may be in trouble because of it. This team's loaded on paper. Probably the best team in the American League East at a minimum, maybe in Major League, maybe in the American League. But they don't win consistently enough. I mean, they leave runners in scoring position in droves. Mariners, I just talked about, they're getting hot. They got a really good pitching staff, good young pitching staff. They did trade away their closer, which was a little surprising. Going to be a free agent after the year, so they'll try to make do with what they can in that bullpen. But the bullpen's been pitching pretty well of late as well without him. So they're still struggling with Teoscar Hernandez is still struggling with Kyle Schwarber numbers and strikeouts and such. So that's not good. The Giants. Smoke and mirrors baseball continues to work for them. They continue to find starters like Logan Webb and Alex Cobb who have not worked out elsewhere. They use a plethora of lineups. They platoon everywhere. Teams use 10 hitters in the 3 slot, 9 in the cleanup spot. Different guys. But it works for them. Gabe Kapler gets ridiculed, especially in Philadelphia, where he managed for a couple of years. And I was even among the people who kind of felt that this team won 107 games 2 years ago, despite Gabe Kapler, not because of him, but there's some method to their madness. The Reds are young. They're having fun. They're on a ride they didn't expect. I didn't expect it. I didn't realize these kids were that good. And now the league's catching up with De La Cruz a little bit, McLean a little bit. Joey Votto's not had a good year. But they've started to rebound a bit. If they get some of their injured pitchers back, like Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo, this team could still come back and make the wild card. I do think they will. If I look at the wild card standings right now, oh, sorry about that. They are tied for that third spot with the Marlins, Cubs, and that's it. The Diamondbacks are just one game back. Are the Padres a real threat? No, they're done. They're done, guys. The Marlins are still alive because of their pitching. Some strange acquisitions for offense with Berger at the deadline, I thought. But listen, he's hit pretty well since he got here. Josh Bell has as well. Still not a great offense, though, guys. And they've still got a negative run differential, which is the opposite of Padres, by the way, who are really out of it. I see no path to the playoffs for the Padres at all. I think they're plus 64 or plus quite a bit. Do I still have it up here? Where are they? Padres plus 62. 6 games over 500. You know how hard that is to do? They're 0-10. 0-10 in extra inning games. 6-19 in 1-run games. You could say they're unlucky or they don't know how to win in the clutch. You make a pick. Who's on life support and hanging by the thread? The Red Sox, I never thought were really in this. They're still hanging in there. I think they got a 10% chance to make the playoffs. And they are kind of an underdog, believe it or not. The Red Sox as an underdog, question mark. But yes, they are. They got some young guys. That we have barely heard of. Jarren Duran. Yoshida, we know they brought in from Japan. Casa. They got some guys off the scrap heap who are excelling in different roles. Nick Pavetta's been really good. And he's pitched himself back into the rotation. But this team is not for real. The Yankees, believe me, the Yankees are going nowhere. 2.5% chance of making the playoffs. Even if they got there, I can't see them winning a game. This team not only is mediocre, this team is boring. Are the Yankees going to be better next year? I don't know because there are so many things to fix. And please, don't be one of those guys to tell me Brian Cashman should be, we should look the other way because, injuries. Well, everybody has injuries. And don't keep signing guys and trading for guys who are walking trips to the DL. The Padres, listen, we just talked about it. How can you possibly be 6 games under 500 with a plus 64, plus 62 run differential? It's almost impossible. The Diamondbacks, interesting team, young, and they didn't make a lot of moves other than for Sewell to close. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I really do. I don't think the Cubs will. I think it will be the so in the National League. I think it'll be the Phillies, the Giants. I'm going to say the Marlins make it, and not the Reds, and not the Cubs, and not the Diamondbacks. In the American League, I already gave my teams the Rays, the Astros, and the Mariners. That would leave the Blue Jays, the Red Sox, and everybody else on the outside looking in. Hey, September baseball, going to be fun. There's going to be some fun races. I just talked about the wild card races, as I said, are going to be kind of wild. You know, in the American League, you got 5 teams, if you want to count the Red Sox, fighting for 3 spots. You got the Rays still fighting for maybe a division title, maybe. The Astros still fighting for a division title. So you could replace either one of those teams potentially with the Orioles or the Rangers. For me, I think this is a 4-team race. So only one team gets left out. And to me right now, that's the Blue Jays. National League's a little bit different. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams within 5 games of the playoffs. That counts the Padres. Only 5 games out. Still with a 20% chance of making the playoffs. I don't think that happens. I think, and by the way, what's so interesting about this is of these, let's just leave the Padres out for a second. Of these 6 teams fighting for the wild card, and the Cubs could theoretically win the division. Nobody else can. I guess the Reds could. You've got some young teams. You've got the Marlins and the Reds and the Diamondbacks. These are teams that if this isn't their year, they're going to be around for a while if they don't make major missteps along the way, which isn't hard to do in the way the league is today. What else do we want to talk about today? Wander Franco deal. Every time I turn around. By the way, I got to bring this up because I saw this meme the other day, and I got to see if I can bring it up quick. We talk a lot about. Well, let's talk. We talked just a little while ago about analytics, right? And part of the problem that they are with baseball today, and the way kids are not being taught baseball intellect in the minor leagues, they're being taught. They're being taught analytics. That's why kids don't know what to do when they get into the big leagues. They don't know how to run the bases. They don't know how to hit behind runners. They don't know how to hit with runners in scoring position. They don't know anything. Part of that, too, we talked about the pitchers. I can't get this up. Probably a bad thing to be saying right at this moment in time. Here we go. So let me see if I can pull this picture up because I had to share this the other day. I shared it to both TGI Sports Talk and my own. We talk about pitchers. I'm going to show this in a second. We talk about the way pitchers are taught and the way they throw 80, 90 pitches, and we try to protect their arms. And I've talked about this forever. And again, I probably ended last week's show the same thing. But because of this meme I'm going to show you in a second, it's on top of my mind again. We don't let kids throw between innings. We don't let them complete games. We don't pay attention to maybe whether they've thrown 80 or 90 pitches, but how difficult those pitches have been. There's an easy 80 or 90, and there's an easy 120, and there's a hard 60. But we don't take any of that into consideration. We just keep counting, and then to protect them, we pull them out of games. Who we got here? Just back from New Jersey, there's Drew. There's nothing wrong with analytics. By the way, Drew, if you just tuned in, let me tell you what's wrong with analytics, and I'll tell you exactly. This is exactly what makes my head explode, because if you weren't with me earlier, you didn't hear this. And maybe you heard this story, I don't know, but a former Yankee prospect called Ben Rula, he's no longer with the Yankee organization. He says they don't teach any baseball. We don't teach baseball intellect. We don't teach people base running in how to run the bases correctly, how to hit behind hitters, how to hit in certain game situations, how to bunt, how to hit and run. Yankees are trying to make everybody into one ball player, and I guarantee you this is not just the Yankees. The Yankees focus on one stat in the minor leagues. I shouldn't say one. The most heavily relied upon stat. I'll get back to the pictures in a second because I got to show this meme. Is something they call hit affects OPS. The stat focuses this. If this doesn't make your head explode, and I guarantee you, if the Yankees are doing this, so are every other organization in baseball. The stat focuses on exit velocity and launch angle to come up with a projected OPS, which, by the way, is a good number. I like OPS a lot. But I have to come up with an exit velocity and launch angle, so I'm going to track this for every player to come up with a projected OPS while eliminating luck as a factor. So let's not teach them the basic fundamentals of baseball, which if you watch the Yankees play any night, if you watch almost any baseball team play, at least outside of the Astros and the Braves and teams that are actually playing well, and not all of them, by the way, instead of teaching the fundamentals of baseball, this is what we're focusing on in the minor leagues. Exit velocity and launch angles. This is why kids are striking out right and left, because they don't care. And he says it in this article. The metrics, with this metric, strikeouts do not dock you. And you see that because they use this in the minors. And they use this to make free agent decisions. So they're signing guys and they're making trades based off of this analytic. My head is right now being held onto my head or kept from exploding by these headphones, and that's it. You wonder why these kids come up and strike out 150 times in 400 plate appearances. If this isn't the dumbest stuff I've ever heard, and why everybody in the Yankee front offices should be fired, and throughout the farm system, nonsense. We don't teach. Baseball instincts don't mean anything anymore. Radar gun means something. Exit velocity means something. Everything else, it is a bad use of analytics, Drew, and I'm telling you, this is my problem with analytics. Everybody in Major League Baseball does not use them correctly. You can use the numbers. You can tell me this is a good number, this is a bad number. In fact, WAR, I'll tell you, WAR is a horrible stat, or whatever you want to call it. It's a stat, I guess. You know why I know it's a horrible one? Not everybody calculates it the same way. If it was that important, everybody would calculate it the same way. You don't calculate on base percentage differently depending on the organization or the media outlet that's creating their own stats. You don't change how batting average is calculated, or run average and whip, or things that don't matter to anybody anymore. But WAR, which is this God almighty thing that we all think is the most wonderful thing, and that's why home runs and RBIs and runs scored don't matter anymore. But everybody's got their own formula for how they calculate WAR. That's how I know it's not important. Well, again, I shouldn't say it's not important. Not important to me. You know what's important to me? The eye test. How about we go get scouts? We don't need scouts anymore. Another problem with baseball, we don't go out and scout teams. We got analytics. We don't need to scout them. and watch the game and use the eye test, which we only worked for 120 years. Head. Intellects are just numbers. How? Yeah. The problem is you're we're on the same page here, Drew, with this part. Yes, they are just numbers and how you interpret them. The fact that you use them and interpret them in any way, shape, or form, as I've just talked about, is ridiculous. And you don't use the eye test at all. That's what's wrong. They're using these numbers, and that's all they're using. You tell me, and you can watch a game any night of the week, and you can see a reliever come in the seventh inning and have a 5-pitch inning and be out in the eighth inning because, well, he's shown that he pitches better in the seventh inning than the eighth inning. Not every eighth inning isn't the same. It's like football. Hey, third down statistics. You say, well, the Patriots are only converting 40% of their third down opportunities. Like every third down is the same. Third and inches is the same as third and 20. That's when you rely on numbers specifically. They mean nothing. Now to get back to what I was talking about. We baby pitchers trying to protect them, and we end up hurting them. Look at the number of young pitchers who have been babied throughout their career. Just look at the Rays, who I talked about before. With 4 different young guys gone down with arm injuries this year. Guys that they babied all through their careers. Don't throw between starts. Can't throw more than 80 or 90 pitches. Like I said before, you can throw 130 pitches that don't cause a stress on your arm, depending on the game situation. You can throw 50 and it causes extreme pressure on your arm because of your pitching out of jams and whatever not. But we don't take that into consideration. We just count. Click, 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 click. Now I'll show you this, and I'll get to your comment in a second, Drew, because I was having a boring time till you showed up. I'm just kidding. Check out this, and you may have seen this already, Drew, but maybe some others haven't. We'll see this later. So let me show you this because this is so on the mark. I can't even begin to tell you. I'm not sure how much of this you can see, but what it says, get to this in a second. What it says here, it's hilarious. Picture Nolan Ryan, obviously, from the Super 70 Sports, I think Twitter. I guess we can't call it Twitter anymore. It's X because Twitter was worn out. Nolan Ryan's arm was so damaged by the first 5,000 innings of his career. 5,000 innings, guys. You can name me any 3 guys coming up today, and they won't reach 3,000 innings or 5,000 innings combined. Anyways, his arm was so damaged by the first 5,000 innings of his career, he was only able to strike out 16 Blue Jays when he no-hit them at age 44. This is a cautionary tale for all young pitchers. By the way, sarcasm should be noted here. I mean, if that's not, and again, analytics plays into this too. These executives think, every person in the front office and farm system in the Yankees should be fired tomorrow. This is how they want to conduct business. It's ridiculous. Drew's favorite misuse of some player is how some players don't have platoon split, and yet managers insist on platooning them against opposite right-hander regardless. Well, then they aren't using the numbers at all. That was a hilarious one because there's one obvious place to use the analytics. It's in platooning to a certain extent. And again, all I really care about, and I will be told that this, you can't just do it this way, is show me his batting average and on-base percentage and slugging percentage against lefties and righties, and I can decide whether he's proficient against both or neither or one. Yes, nicely sarcastic and accurate. I love that. I will never lose that picture. Again, you go back in time, and I know I can't go back in time. I wish I could, man. I need to go back in time so badly. But I need some things to stay in place the way they are today. But I'm going to go back in time for other things just because we didn't have to worry about all this stuff. Guys hurt their arms and they kept pitching, number one. And guess what? They pitched pretty damn good with bad arms. Catfish Hunter pitched with a bad arm for 5 years. Nolan Ryan threw smoke through his entire career. He barely changed how he pitched. He had one of the best curveballs in baseball. But he was still getting up there near 100 miles an hour at 44 years old. And pitching complete games or deep into games. I told you guys, I think I told the story here, and I told it on the Sunday Stream of Consciousness now back in June. That 50 years earlier, on that date, I think it was June 13th, I want to say, Nolan Ryan and Luis Tiant hooked up in a 15 or 16 inning game. Ryan went the whole way. Tiant went all but 1 inning. And then while they weren't keeping track of pitches at the time, Ryan was thought to have thrown like 350 pitches in that game. He pitched for 20 more years. You know why? He had great arm strength. You know why? Because he threw a lot. And Nolan Ryan tried to fix this. When he was running the Rangers, he actually tried to fix this. But unfortunately, he could not get a foothold and stay there long enough. And I don't know if one guy can do it. Just like I don't know if one manager change, bringing in a Billy Martin type to New York or whoever looks to fill a managerial spot this year, I don't think is going to fix that. And by the way, I'm not naive enough to think that Billy Martin did not make use of, at the time, what were some newfangled analytics. It's things we're diving into exit velocity and launch angles. You have to stop. Managers, when all you do is rely on these numbers in front of you, no matter what kind of use you make of them, if all you're going to do is keep looking at this, and here's my 7th inning guy, here's my 8th inning guy, here's my 9th inning guy, here's line, look at, I know line drive rates are probably important, but what if I'm hitting line drives right at guys? Well, now I got my fly ball in play, blah, blah, blah. It's too many numbers. Because you know what is lost in all of this? A feel for the game. A feel for what exactly is developing in front of you and how to react in different game situations. I get all over them for not teaching players, but they don't even have managers that can do this. You know, this game I will use Garrett Cole for an example, right? Just to use a name. You know, Garrett Cole in the 7th or 8th inning of a game after throwing 100 pitches today is not the same as next week when he has the same number of innings pitched, the same number of pitches. He could be more worn out or less worn out, depending on how he had to throw those 100 pitches or 120 pitches. But we look at it all the same. We don't take the circumstances that brought him to that 100 or 120 pitches, let's just say. We don't look at how much stress was put on his arm or not put on his arm during those 100 to 120 pitches, or 80 or 90 or whatever number you want to put on it. So, and then we're going to bring in some guy who's not even as effective as a worn out Garrett Cole. God. Managers are not allowed by some teams to use anything but stat printouts, managing by rate script. Making my argument for me, Drew. I would bet you anything you want to bet me that's what happens in Yankee dugout. And why Aaron Boone needs to go and why Brian Cashman needs to go. Brian Cashman is the guy who sets the tone for the organization, both on a major league level and a minor league level. And there's that guy in every organization. And that story I read you from the Post, I guarantee you is happening throughout baseball. Because one thing we know about professional sports is they're all copycat leagues. And if somebody finds something they fall in love with, what are we calling this? Hit affects OPS. Fire all of them. Blow up the freaking front offices across the freaking league. Ugh. A little bit overtime. The owners hate it when I go overtime. They got to pay me a lot more money. Not long, though, Drew. I got to go. You got any topic you want to bring up quickly, Drew? We'll jump into it. I mean, I covered a lot of stuff today with the wild card races. You kind of got on just in time because I was going to go after I went on my Nolan Ryan rant. But then I went back on the analytics rant. The best manager is the one that understands how to interpret analytics in relation to what is actually happening on the field. I don't disagree. I would not, again, and I know sometimes I get carried away, and I understand there are some analytics. Hell, OPS is an analytic number that didn't exist, even though it was very easily calculated. I'll say that word. 50 years ago. But now it's just become, I got to show how smart I am. That's what I really feel is going on here. If your minor league system is teaching every player, they want everybody to be the same player, regardless of what his strengths or weaknesses are. It's really sad. And unfortunately, as you said before, Drew, many managers are not afforded this. Joe Madden got fired in Los Angeles for ignoring analytics. And he was a guy who tried, I think, an old school guy who tried to marry the two together. I watch guys like Kevin Cash manage, and I swear to God, sometimes they don't have a clue what's going on right in front of them. We'll save everything else for Sunday. Go live your life the rest of the day. Lower your blood pressure. I think it's good to get my blood pressure up because I'm getting myself, like a pitcher throwing a lot. If I get my body used to my blood pressure being at an inordinate high level, then, I'll be less likely to stroke out. I'll get high tolerance for high blood pressure. Makes about as much sense as what we just talked about. True. So thank you for that. And guys, thank you for tuning in today. We had a good time. We've had some great reception to these shows. And Drew, we'll get Drew on here maybe. Next week might be a problem because maybe we'll have Drew on. I probably got to change the time of the show next week because I do have a work football draft at 3:00. So I got to deal with that. And so we'll probably change the time up on the show. I'll figure out what time we'll do it. Now, maybe we'll have Drew on next week. And we'll dive more into the analytics part again because I love talking about it. Guys, have a great weekend. Lots of fun baseball coming up. I didn't even get into the series that we're going to have this weekend, but go find a good series to watch. There's going to be lots of good races, wild card races mostly. some of the divisional races as we head down the stretch here soon. 6 weeks to go, roughly, right? Have fun. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you Sunday with the Sunday Stream of Consciousness. Keith Engle, TGI Sports Talks. Need your week. Update. See you later.